Okay. We like our Jazz Crow over Rare. Jazz win big last night in Houston. And I love that everybody was tweeting and commenting on our YouTube channel. Oh, you guys are idiots. You guys are just stupid. Do you watch Jazz games? We don't. We just read box scores. That's all we do here.
Mm-hmm.
The Rockets are terrible, and the Jazz were very good last night. Well, let's be honest. The Jazz were the Hall of Very Average last night. And the Rockets are not very good at all, Jake.
Yeah, I mean, so by Jazz, levels of performance, it wasn't as though they played really well. Like, I mean, you if you look at the numbers, I mean, again, this is an opinion, right? This is just the numbers from the box score. Go to ESPN.com. You can find these. Okay, so you look at their 3-point percentage last night, still hovering around that 30 to 34% range. 34.8 last night, which is definitely low for this team. I look at the field goal percentage was excellent last night. Shooting 48.5 from the field is pretty good. So, overall, you played well. Everyone after the game was talking about how they got balance, and a lot of guys scored 10 points. You were also playing the Rockets, so you would expect that. You would expect young guys to get more minutes in this kind of a game. But, I mean, overall, I just think the Jazz are in a good place right now, Obviously, as everybody said yesterday, they should have won this game going away, and that's exactly what they did. I look at the Rockets last night. One of their worst games of the year, in my opinion. You shoot 20.5% from three, 9 of 44 from three, and you shoot 32% from the field. 31 to 95. No team, if the Jazz did that, they wouldn't have won the game. So that's why I say, like, not to take anything away from the Jazz, but it was the Rockets. Were we wrong about it? Yes and no. Did we say that the Rockets were going to win this game? No, we always maintained that they were going to lose this game. I think everybody could agree on that. I just thought it was going to be quite a bit closer than it was, but it wasn't. So, for today, Jazz fans, you get to have your fun. We were wrong. How about that?
Wait, I'm sorry. What'd you say?
We were wrong.
I don't think that's true.
Okay.
We just were not right. One thing is very clear, though, that when you look at this game and you watch some of the trends that come out of this game, Donovan Mitchell has to get going here. Like, I'm waiting for Donovan Mitchell, the alpha male, to show up, and it doesn't matter to me who they play. I think the Jazz have a habit of kind of coasting through games like this. So I was very happy to see them pound Houston. I mean, they wiped the Toyota Center floor with the Houston Rockets last night. Let's not kid ourselves. And the Jazz can only play the teams that are in front of them. I think it's a bit much to say, oh, the Jazz are the last undefeated team in the NBA.
I really don't care if you think it's sus.
Yeah, I get it, Jazz fan. You don't care. But let's be honest. It's not like the Jazz have played the greatest schedule, but they can only play the teams that were put on their schedule, and they're 4-0. And they're going into a weekend back-to-back with the Bulls and Bucks. Did you watch any of the Bulls and Knicks game last night? My God, what a game that was, especially the ending. So I'm really looking forward to that game tomorrow night, and then obviously the Bucks game in Milwaukee on Sunday. I think now we find out who this Utah Jazz team is, because I don't think there's any question that while both the Bulls and the Bucks have muddled a little bit, those are two teams that are very capable of winning any game against any opponent.
Yeah.
And the Utah Jazz are right now the best team in the NBA. And they're coming off of a win that, frankly, was easy. There was a lot of load management in that game, as there should have been. And it was one of those nights that you need before you head to a back-to-back with Chicago and Milwaukee, because I think this really is – I'm not going to say this is a prove-it, kind of weekend, but, I think these are games that you want to win because it reinforces – to the NBA community, hey, we're the Utah Jazz, and we're pretty damn good at playing basketball.
Yeah, I mean, they handled business last night, and I think that some of the things I still want to see. I still want to see that 3-point percentage going up. I still want to see them as a team shooting around 40%, because that's where this team likes to hang out. So we need to see that. And then as far as changes, I don't think they need to change too much. I do like the balance they're getting. I do like the way they're playing the game. But yeah, the question about Donovan getting going is kind of an interesting one. When you're going to go and play the Bucks this weekend, that's not a game where you're going to be able to coast and you're going to be able to, play all the young guys a bunch of minutes. That's a playoff basketball caliber game you're talking about. That's like the best team, or last year's best team in the league at the end of the day, challenging you and pushing you. So I think the Bucks game is really the first game where you're like, all right, let's see what this Jazz team can really do. What are they going to do with Giannis? What are they going to do with Drew Holiday? What are they going to do with Chris Middleton? Like, how do these matchups kind of pan out? So that's the first real test of the season, I feel like. But overall, I mean, if you're a Jazz fan, you should be happy. I just think that, when we have this conversation on this show, we're not having it from a, hey, this is fun and cool perspective. We're having it from, hey, this is a team that needs to win a championship this year because next year financially is going to be really difficult. So, is it cool to say you're the best team in the league right now? Yes, but also we'd like to be able to say that in the postseason. So enjoy it, but at the same time, for me, I'm like, hey, we're 4 games in. Like, let's keep building. Let's keep getting the rotations consistent. Let's keep, working on these things to get better.
Yeah. Well, and the only reason I bring up the Donovan Mitchell thing is because it's pretty obvious that, whether you want to call it a slow start or they haven't played nearly their best basketball yet, and they're still 4-0. You're taking advantage of what has been a very friendly schedule to the Utah Jazz, as you should. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that when you have the ability to control your destiny a little bit, that I think you should. And I think resting Don, playing Mike Conley as little as possible in the first 2 months of the season, I think all that's really important because winning games now is almost an afterthought. You need to be healthy in May, June, and July. You need to be healthy going into the NBA Finals, and you need to get to, and I say the NBA Finals, you need to be healthy going into the playoffs. You need to get to the Western Conference Finals, and you need to win.
Yeah.
And so that's a good win last night. There's no doubt about it. It's good to see, but you need to be healthy, and I don't care if you lose 25 games this year. Just be healthy and good to go when the playoffs start. Because to me, that's the priority, right?
I agree, 100%. Be a top 5 team in the West and be healthy.
Yeah.
That's it. Because really, at the end of the day, being, again, like we saw last year, being number 1 in the West doesn't really help you. It doesn't give you an advantage in the postseason.
Well, I think it's meaningful to a certain extent. I don't believe it helps you win a championship. Yeah. I think once you get to the NBA Finals, okay, maybe. But I think when you're looking at the early rounds of the playoffs, it's certainly insignificant. I think it's nice to have less travel to open up a series. Okay, cool. But at the end of the day, you lost on your home floor last year. And you lost to the Clippers because the Clippers were just a better basketball team at that point. That's all you should be focused on. Being the best version of this team when the playoffs start and as you get into the second and third rounds, you need to be your best team. You need to be playing your best basketball. And Conley and Don and Rudy Gay and this team needs to be healthy for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see. I would like to see more Hassan Whiteside in these games and less Rudy Gobert. Rudy's played a lot of basketball over the last 2 years, including the Olympics.
Rudy played 28 minutes. Hassan played 17.
I would like to see more Hassan Whiteside.
Yeah.
I'd like to see far less of Rudy Gobert in blowouts like this because every time he touches the ball, he gets beat up.
Yeah.
And defensively, he's the one good thing you have going defensively. So I would again tell you, hey, you don't need to just load manage Mike Conley. I would be looking at Rudy Gobert as well. He's not bulletproof.
Yeah.
So in the physical beating that Rudy Gobert takes on a night in, night out basis in this league is not insignificant. And it's absolutely something I would be paying close attention to. What do you look forward to this weekend, real quick, before we get to football? On the Jazz going to Chicago, I think it's an interesting matchup. The Bulls played terrible basketball last night through 3.5 quarters.
Mm-hmm.
Found a 3-minute stretch where they played well in the fourth, and then DeMar DeRozan inexplicably shot an air ball to end the game.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that the Bulls are a fun team to watch. I think the Bulls are an up-tempo team. I think that the thing that we learned last night about the Jazz, though, is that when they run good offense, they're not obviously allowing the other team to get out in transition. So I think, I like what the Jazz are bringing to the table, and I think that the Bulls are definitely more talented than the Rockets. I don't even, I don't think that's in question. I just think that what really is going to, decide how this game goes is how well the other team is shooting, because we know that the Jazz are typically going to shoot 35 to 40% from three. So that is like a built-in advantage for the Jazz. So, yeah, I mean, against the Bulls, that's probably a game I'd expect the Jazz to win. But again, I don't know. I eventually the hey, we're playing crappy teams thing is going to run out on the Jazz. Eventually, you're going to start grinding against some of these teams. So like, the Memphis Grizzlies, the Chicago Bulls, these mid-table teams who have a lot of talent and are really going to push you and grind it out with you. Eventually, we're going to start seeing some of those games. So I don't know. Are the Jazz just that much better right now? Or was last night it was just the Rockets? I mean, obviously the Jazz are really good. So what do I look for against the Bulls? I look for the Jazz to win, but I'm curious how defense is going to go against a team that back cuts a lot, against a team that gets out in transition and punishes you for your missed shots. Like that's the kind of game you're most likely going to see.
The only thing that worries me about the Jazz is I just don't think they're shooting the ball very well to start the season. That's the only thing that worries me. Like you can figure everything else out, but much like we saw with the Houston Rockets, with the Denver Nuggets, any of these teams, if the three ball's not going in, if the Jazz are only going to shoot 34% from three, they're not going to win. They have to shoot a higher, and that's kind of the what is it? The perch you live on. That's kind of the cliff that you're straddling. I mean, if you don't shoot 40% in a game against a high caliber club, like if they don't shoot 40% Sunday in Milwaukee, they're going to lose.
Right. And
that's the hard part because you're not going to out athlete the Milwaukee Bucks, right? Nobody is. You're not probably going to out athlete the Chicago Bulls. Like they don't have an answer for guys like Zach LaVine. They don't have an answer for Lonzo Ball. And Zach LaVine on the break. They don't have an answer for DeMar DeRozan in the half court. So the issue, the guy again in Chicago tomorrow night, Rudy Gobert's got to have a 25-20 game. I mean, because the Bulls don't
and he
play
really
big.
Should.
Yeah, they don't play big at all.
He really should have that kind of game.
Yeah, they are a small team. Vucevic is a guy that does not like to bang, does not like to play on the block. So that's a game that you would expect the Jazz to go to Chicago and win.
Mm-hmm.
But they're going to have to be better defensively. So I think Sunday you're going to have to shoot a really high percentage, which is going to be tough because you're in a back-to-back. Thankfully, it's a bus ride from Chicago to Milwaukee. It's a short trip. It's an hour and a half drive. So you're not in for some long travel night. Hopefully that plays to the Jazz hands, and hopefully that plays to their favor because Sunday is going to be very difficult. Milwaukee is going to be well rested, and I think that's a very difficult game. They should beat the Bulls, but Milwaukee's that game that I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a test. Like I said, it's their first real test this season, so look forward to that game.
Yeah, and by the way, I think the Jazz are doing exactly what they should be doing. So I don't see the Jazz losing until December. Okay. How did the
Okay, great. Let's pull out the schedule.
We get a little lofty. I don't even know who said that. And now there's a comment dump, so I can't. If you don't expect the Jazz to lose until December, I think if they don't lose to December, I would expect them to win a championship.